Hey, what's up everyone? So a few years ago we were doing some pre-production in a warehouse getting ready for a tour, and I happened to notice off in this warehouse there's gear everywhere, and I saw this blue Ampeg style grill cloth just kind of poking out, and I went over there to check it out and see what it was, and I pulled a bunch of lighting gear and everything away from it and saw that there was a 215 cabinet. So the baffle was already partially off and one of the speakers was missing, so I was able to get my phone in there and take a picture of the back of the speaker that was in there, and come to find out, I looked up the date codes on it. It was a CTS square back speaker from 1969. So the cabinet seemed to be in pretty good shape, and I thought that that would be a perfect complement for this 1969 Fender Bassman here. So I offered the owner some money, and I picked this thing up pretty cheap, took it home, and I looked for about a year to try and find a matching speaker, and I could not find one that had the same cone configuration or the same matching codes on the back. This one had a very different cone, especially different from the ones that are in here now. But eventually, last month, I came across two CTS squareback speakers from 1970 and picked them up for a really good price. And I figured now's the time to finally put this thing back together and hear how it sounds. One thing I did not mention earlier was this special logo here. Now, I've never been able to trace back what that actually is. You know, this cabinet is a little bit more narrow than the Fender here. So I'm thinking maybe it was an Ampeg. I mean, it does have the Ampeg blue cloth that you can't find anymore. You know, it also looks similar to the way a Sun cabinet was constructed. But if anybody has any info on what this could possibly be, I would love to hear it. I'm thinking maybe it is an Ampeg cabinet the whole time, and who knows, this could have come off a car or something. You know, somebody could have just popped it on there. But if you recognize that, drop me a line. So I'll show you guys what I did to it, and at the end we'll hear some sound clips. The first thing I need to do with this is make it a little bit more maneuverable. It's hard to work on because it doesn't have any wheels or anything, so I have to just slide it across and pick it up, and it's going to be heavy once those drivers are installed, so we really need to come up with some kind of system to put some casters on here. I do like this type of caster here because you can just pull it out of the base if you want to put it on the ground, or if you're recording or something, you pull these out so they don't rattle. The drawback in these is you do have to drill a pretty sizable hole through the base of whatever cabinet you're going to mount it to. In a cab like this, it does have some bracing under here, and also on the front side as well, there's some other extra bracing, so it's a little bit deeper. So the casters are going to be a little bit more inside than I'd like, but hopefully that'll stay pretty stable regardless. So first off, just need to kind of measure how far in that is. So that bracing is about 1.5 inches in. On the back side, it looks like I can get it pretty close to the edge here. Just stick it right about there. Good, it's going to avoid that corner as well. We've already got a hole. It's about lined up right there. It's into that brace just a hair, but I think we can use that as a good starting point. So that went right into the side of the brace. That's not too bad. If I were ever to really gig heavy with this cab, it would probably benefit to just put another board or a big caster base on the bottom of this thing, because the wood is not in great shape. It's splintering a lot and it's not holding very well. It's solid enough, but it has probably gotten wet a couple of times. You know, who knows? This thing was sitting God knows how long in a warehouse. So far so good. Rolling great. Alright, well now let's get on to getting these speakers mounted. So also some of the T-nuts on this thing were missing when I got it, and I could probably support you know, a light, the 15's not super heavy, so these 4 that are in place will probably support it fine, but I want to make sure, since I've got the holes available and it looks like they were there at some point in time, I'd like to just go ahead and get the T-nuts replaced. Instead of hammering them in, I can actually just use the screw itself. Alright, so let's try to get this driver up in here. Holy shit, I don't even remember how I got this thing out to begin with. And it might be a lot easier to just go ahead and front load this thing, but I swear this is how it went in. Oh, there we go. Wow. All right. It's the gotta go in that specific way or it just won't fit. So we've got our drivers mounted. So before I flip this thing back over, I'm gonna go ahead and run the wire through here. It's 2 8-ohm speakers here. We're gonna wire them in parallel so I get a 4-ohm load for the Fender Bassman this cab's gonna go along with. So that should be pretty simple to wire up. And I should have tested the impedance of the speaker before I got them in place. I'm just getting a little ahead of myself because I'm so excited. Yeah, so we're good here. It's reading 6.4 ohms. I actually had some wire braided up from a previous project, or not really braided, I should just say twisted. And this one might actually be long enough to get from both speakers and to the input jack as well. So I usually take the ends that get stuck in the drill. I usually just go ahead and cut those off. And typically I use 16 gauge wire on every setup. Unless I'm doing a really powerful bass rig or something, then I'd actually go up to like 14. .4 ohms on this one as well. Means we got 2 8-ohm drivers here. Alright, so with this, we just need to cut the wire, so I got a little bit of slack in it, not too much. Alright, about to wire up the jack. But first, you know, I test all my stuff here. Make sure the polarity's right. Now you can probably see the speaker's got some pretty good movement to it. When you hook a 9-volt battery up, you know, your positive to your positive, negative to your negative, the speaker should go out. And that's what it does. And if we go down to the yeah, just look at both speakers and just make sure they're both going out or in the same orientation. Then you, and then you know you're in phase. One final check. Just get a cable in there. Yeah, make sure you're not risking hitting anything and that you got a good contact where you're supposed to. All right, ready to button this up. And I'm not sure what's up with this jack plate. I think there's a circular hole on the inside, which leads me to believe it's probably, or it's supposed to be like a cup style jack plate here. I looked around the shop, I don't seem to have one that is correct for the era, but this one is going to work fine. But if I were to recover this cab and everything, I would definitely fix up this wood and do something a lot nicer. Alright, that's good. when I was in that warehouse, this is what really stuck out to me, is I saw a cabinet kind of sitting off to the distance with this blue type Ampeg cloth. And I don't know what this special here is. You know, I don't know if this came off a car or if maybe this was a one-off type of cabinet or something. But I've got no information on what this is. So it almost makes me think that it did come off of maybe an automobile or something and somebody just jammed it on here. I have no clue. But this is blue Ampeg cloth as far as I know. And I thought about taking this off and redoing this front frame here because, like I said, I think it did get wet because it is kind of warped a little bit. And the way this is structured, I could get a piece of wood to go across it and try and straighten it back out. But who knows, once I drill into this, you know, it could very well start to split. And then I'd end up having to take the cloth all off and try to make a new frame for it. And which I can do, but is it really worth it for this whole thing if I'm not going to recondition the whole thing? You know, they're not priceless. You know, you can find a lot of these old 215s. They're pretty affordable. So maybe one day I might refurbish the whole thing. But for the most part, I'm a bigger fan of gear that works and sounds good. So that's what we're aiming for instead of trying to make it perfect. Well, I got everything all mic'd up and ready to go to check it out. Like I said earlier, both these speakers are from 1970, and the closest thing I have to that is a 1969 Fender Bassman 100. I've got the 2 channels jumpered, and I'm just plugged into the number 1 of the normal input here. Nothing too fancy, and the master volume's up to like 4 or 5. I ended up playing a lot more guitar through this head than bass, so the first thing I did was plug a Les Paul into it and strum a chord through these speakers, and I was really disappointed at first. They don't sound good at all for guitar, but I went and picked up my Fender Jazz Special and plucked a couple notes. Sounds great for bass. So these speakers, although they do have a little bit more mid-range than I think modern bass speakers do, you'll hear the difference. All I really had to do was flip one of these mics out of phase, and you've got a really modern bass tone with a lot of growl to it. So all in all, I'm really happy with the way this turned out. So I'll let you guys hear it for yourself. well, that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.